The moment Nicole walked into the elegant ballroom of the Riverside Country Club, she knew something was wrong. The usual chatter of 50 guests fell to whispers as heads turned toward her. Her mother-in-law, Patricia, stood at the center of the room wearing a smile that didn't reach her eyes, the same smile she'd worn for the past 5 years whenever Nicole entered a room. "There she is," Patricia announced, her voice cutting through the awkward silence. "My son's wife. Finally decided to show up to my birthday celebration." Nicole checked her watch. She was exactly on time, 7 o'clock, as the invitation had specified. She'd even left her foundation's office early to make sure she wouldn't be late. Something about this felt orchestrated. Trevor, her husband of 5 years, stood beside his mother. His jaw was set in that particular way that meant he was about to do something cruel. Nicole had learned to read that expression over the years, though she'd gotten much better at hiding her reactions. "Nicole," Trevor said, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "I'm glad you're here. Saves me a phone call." The room went completely silent. Even the catering staff stopped moving. "We need to talk," he continued, walking toward her with slow, deliberate steps. "Actually, everyone here needs to hear this. No more secrets, no more pretending." Nicole's heart began to race, but she kept her face neutral. She'd learned that trick too. Never let them see you break. "I want a divorce," Trevor announced, stopping 3 feet in front of her. "And you need to pack your bags and be out of the house by tomorrow." Gasps echoed through the ballroom. Nicole saw her sister-in-law cover her mouth in shock. Even some of Trevor's relatives looked uncomfortable with this public humiliation. "Trevor," Patricia interjected, but not to stop him, to add fuel to the fire. "Tell her why. She deserves to know why." Trevor's mouth curved into something that might have been a smile if it contained any warmth. "I've met someone else. Someone who actually appreciates me. Someone who doesn't spend all her time at some pointless charity pretending to be important." The words were designed to wound, and a year ago they would have. But Nicole had changed in ways Trevor couldn't see. She'd grown in ways he'd never bothered to notice. "Let me introduce everyone," Trevor said, gesturing toward a table near the front. "This is Gabrielle. And she's carrying my child." A woman stood up from the family table, the table where Nicole should have been sitting. She was younger, dressed in an expensive red dress that Nicole recognized as designer. The woman placed a protective hand over her visibly pregnant stomach and gave Nicole a triumphant look. The room erupted in shocked murmurs. Some of Trevor's relatives looked genuinely distressed. Others, particularly his mother's closest friends, seemed to be enjoying the drama. Nicole stood perfectly still, processing the scene. Gabrielle had been sitting at the family table. This meant Patricia knew. This whole birthday party was a setup, a stage for her public humiliation. "You've been cheating," Nicole said quietly, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Don't act so innocent," Patricia snapped. "You've been a terrible wife. Always running off to that silly foundation of yours, never making my son a priority. What did you expect?" Nicole looked at the faces around the room. Some pitied her. Some judged her. A few looked angry on her behalf. But most were just watching, waiting to see what she would do. This was the moment they expected her to cry, to beg, to fall apart. Instead, Nicole reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. Her hands didn't shake as she scrolled through her contacts and pressed call. "What are you doing?" Trevor demanded. Nicole held up one finger, signaling him to wait. The phone rang once, twice, then connected. "Hello, Mr. Harrison? This is Nicole Mitchell. Yes, I know it's Saturday evening and I apologize for calling your personal number. But I need you to proceed with everything we discussed. Tonight. All of it." She paused, listening. "Yes, I'm certain. Thank you." She ended the call and looked directly at Trevor. His confident expression had shifted to confusion. "Pack my bags," Nicole said, her voice clear and calm. "I already did. 3 days ago. I moved everything I care about out of your house while you were in Chicago. With Gabrielle, I assume?" Trevor's face reddened. "You can't just." "I can and I did," Nicole interrupted. "And that phone call? That was to my attorney. By Monday morning, you're going to understand just how much you underestimated me." She turned to Patricia. "Happy birthday, Patricia. I hope this party was everything you wanted it to be. Because it's the last one I'll ever attend." Nicole walked toward the exit, her heels clicking against the marble floor. The crowd parted for her like she was royalty. She held her head high, her spine straight, her dignity intact. Behind her, she heard Trevor calling her name, his voice tinged with something new, uncertainty, maybe even fear. She didn't look back. As Nicole reached her car in the parking lot, Her phone buzzed with a text from her attorney. "Files ready to submit first thing Monday morning. Are you sure you want to do this?" Nicole typed back, "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." She started her car and drove away from the country club, away from Trevor's family, away from 5 years of being underestimated and undervalued. That one phone call had set everything in motion, and Trevor had no idea what was coming. 3 years earlier, Nicole had received the phone call that changed her life. "Ms. Mitchell? This is Howard Chin from Preston and Associates. I'm calling about your grandmother Dolores Williams's estate." Nicole had been sitting in the small apartment she shared with Trevor, folding laundry while he complained about his job. She'd stepped into the bedroom to take the call privately. "I'm sorry, there must be some mistake," Nicole had said. "My grandmother died 5 years ago. Her estate was settled." "Not entirely," Mr. Chin explained. "Your grandmother had a trust that matured on your 30th birthday. I'm calling to inform you that you've inherited $2.3 million, along with several properties." Nicole had nearly dropped the phone. The inheritance came with stipulations. Her grandmother, who'd been a successful businesswoman before her death, had created the trust specifically for Nicole. The money was to be used for charitable purposes or business development. And there was one unusual condition. Nicole was not required to tell anyone about the inheritance if she chose not to. "Your grandmother was very specific about this," Mr. Chin had explained. "She wrote in her instructions that you should use this money to build something of your own, something that couldn't be controlled or influenced by anyone else." Nicole had spent 2 weeks researching, planning, thinking. She'd watched how Trevor reacted whenever she mentioned wanting to do more with her life. He dismissed her ideas, minimized her ambitions, told her she should focus on supporting his career instead of pursuing her own dreams. So she'd made a decision. She wouldn't tell him. Using the inheritance, Nicole established the Dolores Williams Foundation for Survivor Support. She rented office space in a building across town, hired 3 staff members, and began offering free counseling, legal aid, and job training to women escaping abusive situations. Trevor thought she was volunteering at a local charity. He never asked questions, never showed interest in what she did during her days. As long as dinner was ready when he wanted it and his laundry was done, he didn't care how she spent her time. Over 3 years the foundation grew. Nicole invested wisely and the initial inheritance doubled. She expanded services, opened satellite locations, and built partnerships with corporations willing to provide job opportunities for the women they helped. She kept meticulous records of everything, every dollar spent, every woman helped, every success story. The foundation became her pride and joy, her proof that she was capable of building something meaningful. But she also kept records of something else. 6 months ago, Nicole had been looking for a document in Trevor's home office when she found a folder stuffed behind his file cabinet. Inside were financial statements from his company, statements that didn't match the official reports she'd seen during the one company event she'd attended. The numbers were wrong. Significantly wrong. Nicole had taken photos of everything with her phone and returned the folder to its hiding place. Then she'd called someone she'd met through the foundation, a forensic accountant named Beth Rodriguez who'd escaped an abusive marriage and now helped other women protect themselves financially. "These show embezzlement," Beth had said after reviewing the documents. "He's been skimming money from company accounts and hiding it. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars over at least 2 years. Nicole had felt sick. "What should I do?" "Document everything," Beth had advised. "Find every piece of evidence you can. Build a case. And when you're ready, take it to the authorities." So Nicole had spent 6 months being the perfect wife while secretly photographing documents, tracking Trevor's movements, and building an airtight case against him. She documented his late-night meetings that he claimed were work dinners. She'd traced money transfers to offshore accounts. She'd found receipts for jewelry and trips she'd never received or been invited on. And she'd discovered Gabrielle. Gabrielle worked at Trevor's company. She was an assistant in the executive office, young and ambitious. Nicole found emails between them, text messages, hotel receipts. The affair had been going on for 8 months. But Nicole didn't confront Trevor. Instead, she prepared. She'd moved money from their joint accounts into a separate account he didn't know about. Money she'd contributed from her foundation salary, which Trevor had never bothered to ask about. She'd packed her important belongings and moved them to a storage unit. She'd hired the best divorce attorney in the city. And she'd waited for the right moment. When Patricia's birthday invitation arrived, Nicole had a feeling. Something about the wording, the way Trevor had been acting, Distant, confident, cruel in small ways that built up over time. She told her attorney to be ready. Now, driving away from the country club, Nicole felt a strange sense of calm. The humiliation had been awful, but it was also perfect. Trevor had shown everyone exactly who he was. He'd done it publicly, arrogantly, with his mother's blessing. And now Nicole was going to show everyone exactly who she was. She pulled into the parking lot of a 24-hour diner and ordered coffee. Her phone rang, her best friend Jordan, who'd been at the party. "Nicole, are you okay?" That was. "I'm fine," Nicole said. "Better than fine, actually." "What's happening?" "That phone call you made." Trevor looked scared. Nicole smiled. "He should be. By Monday morning, his entire world is going to fall apart. And I'm going to be there to watch." Sunday morning, Nicole sat in her foundation's office surrounded by 3 years of careful documentation. She'd arrived at 6, made a pot of strong coffee, and spread everything across the conference table. Her attorney, Robert Harrison, arrived at 8 with his senior paralegal, a sharp woman named Monica. "Show me everything," Robert said, settling into a chair. Nicole opened the first folder. "This is Trevor's embezzlement from Garrison Technologies. He's the chief financial officer, which gave him access to multiple accounts. Over the past 2 years, he systematically moved money through fake vendor accounts." She laid out spreadsheets, bank statements, and email correspondence. Beth, her forensic accountant, had organized everything with colored tabs and detailed notes. "The total amount stolen is approximately $750,000, Nicole continued. "He's hidden it in 3 offshore accounts, here, here, and here." She pointed to highlighted sections. Beth traced every transaction. Monica whistled low. "This is federal wire fraud, embezzlement, possibly tax evasion." "There's more," Nicole said, opening another folder. "Trevor has been falsifying company reports to the board of directors. He's been showing profits that don't exist and hiding losses. The company is in worse financial shape than anyone realizes." Robert examined the documents carefully. "Where did you get all of this?" "Trevor keeps everything in his home office. He's arrogant enough to believe I would never look, never understand, or never care." Nicole's voice remained steady. "I photographed everything over 6 months. Beth verified the authenticity and traced the money trails." "And you never confronted him?" "No. I wanted documentation of a pattern, not just a single incident he could explain away." Nicole pulled out another folder. "This contains evidence of his affair with Gabrielle Monroe. Hotel receipts, text messages, emails. Including messages where he talks about divorcing me to be with her." "The pregnancy?" Monica asked. "According to the timeline, she's 5 months along. The affair started 8 months ago, which matches." Nicole paused. "In some of the messages, Trevor talks about how he'll provide for Gabrielle using money from his special accounts. He literally told her about the stolen money." Robert leaned back in his chair. "So she potentially knows about the embezzlement." "The messages suggest she does. Whether she understood it was illegal, I don't know. But she knew the money wasn't coming from his regular salary." "This changes things," Robert said. "We're not just filing for divorce. We're reporting multiple felonies to federal authorities." Nicole nodded. "That's what I want. Trevor humiliated me in front of 50 people last night. He tried to destroy me publicly. But I'm not interested in revenge. I'm interested in justice." Monica pulled out her laptop. "Let's build the timeline. When did you first discover the financial irregularities?" For the next 3 hours, they constructed a comprehensive case. Nicole showed them how she documented everything. Photos with metadata timestamps, recordings of conversations where Trevor mentioned his business deals, financial records she'd legally accessed as his wife. "Your grandmother was smart to structure your inheritance the way she did," Robert observed. "Because Trevor never knew about your foundation or your money, he can't claim any of it in the divorce." "That was intentional," Nicole said. "My grandmother wrote in her trust documents that the money was mine alone, not marital property. She'd been divorced twice and knew how to protect assets." "What about the house?" Monica asked. "Mortgaged in both our names, but I've been paying my half from my foundation salary. I have proof of all payments. I don't want the house. I want my equity out of it." Robert made notes. "Okay, here's how this proceeds. Tomorrow morning we file for divorce. Simultaneously, we submit this evidence package to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division and to the Securities and Exchange Commission." "What about his company?" Nicole asked. "We're legally required to notify them. I'll send a confidential letter to their general counsel and board chairman. Robert looked at her seriously. Nicole, once we start this, there's no going back. Trevor will be arrested. He'll likely go to prison. His career will be destroyed. I understand. His mother will blame you. Gabrielle will blame you. People will say you're vindictive. Nicole thought about 5 years of being dismissed, minimized, and controlled. She thought about Trevor's cruel smile as he announced his affair in front of his mother's birthday guests. She thought about all the women her foundation had helped, women who'd been afraid to stand up to men who abused their power. Let them talk, she said quietly. I'm not the one who committed crimes. I'm not the one who cheated. I'm not the one who tried to publicly humiliate someone I promised to love. Trevor did this to himself. Robert smiled. All right then. Let's proceed. They spent the rest of the day preparing documents. By evening, everything was ready. Divorce papers, evidence packages for law enforcement, notifications to Trevor's employer. Nicole drove to her new apartment, a place Trevor had never seen. She'd leased it 2 weeks ago using her foundation income. It was smaller than the house she'd shared with Trevor, but it was hers. Every piece of furniture, every dish, every decoration, she'd chosen it all. She poured herself a glass of wine and stood by the window, looking out at the city lights. Tomorrow everything would change. Trevor would receive divorce papers at work. Federal agents would show up at his office. The board of directors would learn that their CFO was a criminal. And Nicole would be free. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jordan. Are you sure you're okay? Want me to come over? Nicole replied, I'm better than okay. I'm finally taking my life back. She set her phone down and smiled. Tomorrow was going to be a very interesting day. Monday morning arrived with clear skies and crisp air. Nicole woke at 5:30, went for a run through her new neighborhood, and showered with the kind of calm that comes from knowing you're doing the right thing. At 8 o'clock, Robert Harrison's paralegal Monica delivered divorce papers to Trevor at Garrison Technologies headquarters. Nicole had requested it be done at his office, not at home. She wanted him to feel the same public exposure he'd given her. At 8:15, 2 FBI agents arrived at the same building with a warrant to search Trevor's office and seize his financial records. At 8:30, Robert's office sent a detailed letter to Garrison Technologies' board of directors, outlining the evidence of embezzlement, fraud, and falsified reports. Nicole knew all of this because Robert called her with updates from his office, where he monitored the situation. Trevor just came out of his office with the agents, Robert reported. Building security says he looks shocked. The CEO has been notified and is on his way in. Nicole sat in her foundation's office trying to focus on work. Her staff didn't know what was happening. They saw her as their calm, capable director, and she intended to keep it that way. At 9 o'clock, her phone rang. Trevor. She let it go to voicemail. He called again. And again. By 9:30, he'd called 12 times. Finally, Nicole answered. What do you want, Trevor? What did you do? His voice was frantic, nothing like the confident man who'd humiliated her 2 days ago. The FBI is here. They're going through my office. They're talking about fraud and embezzlement. The board wants to see me immediately. I didn't do anything, Nicole said calmly. You did this to yourself. This is because of Saturday night, isn't it? You're angry, I get it, but this is insane. You can't just. I can and I did. You committed crimes, Trevor. Multiple felonies. Did you really think no one would ever discover what you've been doing? You've been spying on me. You've been going through my private files. I photographed documents in our shared home office. Documents you left where I could find them. That's not illegal. I'll fight this. I'll prove you manipulated evidence or... Trevor, stop. Just stop. Nicole's voice was firm. I have 2 years of documentation. Bank records, emails, text messages, everything. A forensic accountant has verified it all. And you were stupid enough to tell Gabrielle about your special accounts and text messages. She's now a witness. Silence on the other end. You wanted a divorce, Nicole continued. You humiliated me at your mother's birthday party. You've been cheating on me for 8 months. Fine. You'll get your divorce. But you'll also face the consequences of your criminal actions. Nicole, please. We can talk about this. I made mistakes, but we can... No. We're done talking. My attorney will be in touch. She hung up. Within an hour, the news spread through Trevor's professional circle. His company suspended him pending investigation. The board voted unanimously to freeze his access to all company accounts and systems. By noon, local business reporters had picked up the story. Garrison Technologies CFO under federal investigation for embezzlement, read the headline on the Business News website. Nicole's phone rang again. This time it was Patricia, Trevor's mother. Nicole almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. "You vindictive witch." Patricia screamed the moment Nicole picked up. "How dare you do this to my son? He's being treated like a criminal because of your lies." "He is a criminal," Nicole said quietly. "He stole $750,000 from his company. That's not a lie. That's a fact. You set him up. You're angry about Gabrielle and the baby, so you—" "Patricia, your son publicly humiliated me at your birthday party. You helped him do it. You knew about the affair, didn't you? You let his pregnant mistress sit at the family table while you waited for me to arrive so Trevor could blindside me." Silence. "I didn't file false charges," Nicole continued. "I reported real crimes. Trevor did this to himself. And you enabled him by teaching him that he could treat people however he wanted without consequences. He's my son. You're supposed to support him. I was his wife. He was supposed to be faithful to me. Neither of us got what we were supposed to get." Nicole paused. "Don't call me again, Patricia. We have nothing more to say to each other." She hung up and blocked the number. Jordan arrived at Nicole's office with lunch, sandwiches and salads from their favorite cafe. "I saw the news," Jordan said, setting food on Nicole's desk. "The whole city is talking about it. Trevor's company stock dropped 3% this morning." "I didn't want to hurt the company," Nicole said. "I just wanted the truth to come out. You did the right thing. What he did was illegal." Jordan studied her friend. "How are you really doing?" Nicole considered the question. "I'm relieved. 4 months I've been carrying around this secret, knowing what Trevor was doing, planning my exit. Now it's out. Whatever happens next, at least I don't have to pretend anymore." Her phone buzzed with an email from Robert. "Trevor's attorney just contacted me. He wants to negotiate. Says Trevor will agree to any divorce terms if you drop the criminal complaints." Nicole wrote back immediately, "No negotiation. The evidence is already with federal authorities. They'll proceed regardless of what I want. Trevor made his choices." Robert responded, "Understood." His attorney seems desperate. Trevor must be realizing how serious this is. By end of business Monday, Trevor had been formally suspended without pay from Garrison Technologies. The FBI had seized his computers, files, and phone. And divorce papers had been officially filed. Nicole drove home to her apartment, ordered Thai food, and turned on a movie. For the first time in years, she felt like she could breathe. Her life was her own again. The next 2 weeks moved with the momentum of an avalanche. Federal investigators executed search warrants at Trevor's office, his home, and even his car. They found backup drives with financial records, personal ledgers where he tracked his stolen money, and emails that proved he'd been planning the embezzlement for over 3 years. Nicole watched it all from a distance, getting updates from Robert and occasionally reading news articles. "The SEC is involved now," Robert informed her during their weekly meeting. "Trevor's falsification of company reports affected stock prices. That's securities fraud on top of everything else." "How much trouble is he in?" Nicole asked. "Federal prosecutors are building a case. They're talking about charges that could carry 15 to 20 years if convicted on all counts." Robert looked at her carefully. "Are you okay with that?" Nicole thought about it. Was she okay with her husband of 5 years potentially going to prison for decades? "He made choices," she said finally. "He chose to steal. He chose to lie. He chose to betray people's trust. Mine, his company's, shareholders. Those choices have consequences. I didn't create those consequences. The law did." What Nicole didn't tell Robert was that she felt something unexpected. Pity. Not enough to help Trevor, but enough to recognize that he destroyed his own life through greed and arrogance. Gabrielle was experiencing her own crisis. According to Jordan, who had a friend who worked at Garrison Technologies, Gabrielle had been questioned by investigators. She'd admitted to knowing about Trevor's investment accounts, but claimed she didn't know the money was stolen. "She's cooperating with investigators to avoid charges herself," Jordan reported. "Apparently, Trevor gave her expensive gifts, jewelry, designer bags, trips. All bought with stolen money. She's returning everything to try to show she wasn't complicit." "Is she still standing by him?" Nicole asked. Jordan shook her head. "She broke up with him last week. Sent him a text saying she couldn't be with someone facing prison time. Someone saw her at a coffee shop crying to her friends about how she didn't sign up for this drama." Nicole felt a grim satisfaction at that. Gabrielle had been so confident, so triumphant at Patricia's birthday party. Now she was dealing with reality, that the man who'd promised her everything was a fraud in more ways than one. Patricia tried to contact Nicole 3 more times, through relatives, through mutual acquaintances, even through Jordan. "She wants you to tell the prosecutors you made a mistake," Jordan said. "She's saying you misunderstood the financial documents." "I didn't misunderstand anything. And I wouldn't contact prosecutors even if I wanted to. They have the evidence. This is out of my hands now." Patricia was dealing with her own fallout. Her social circle, wealthy women who valued reputation above almost everything, had turned cold. The humiliation she'd orchestrated for Nicole at her birthday party had backfired spectacularly. Now she was the mother of a criminal, and people whispered about whether she'd known about his crimes. Meanwhile, Nicole's foundation was thriving. She'd worried that the scandal might hurt her organization's reputation, but the opposite happened. Media coverage of Trevor's case mentioned Nicole and her work helping abuse survivors. Donations increased. Women reached out wanting to volunteer or share their stories. A local magazine requested an interview about the foundation's work. Nicole agreed, carefully avoiding any discussion of her personal situation. "The Dolores Williams Foundation has helped over 200 women in 3 years," Nicole told the journalist. "We provide counseling, legal aid, job training, and support for women rebuilding their lives after leaving abusive situations." "That's remarkable. And this is all funded by private donations?" "Initially, yes. My grandmother left me an inheritance specifically for charitable work. I've used it to build something that helps women become self-sufficient and safe." The article ran 2 weeks later with the headline, "Local Director Quietly Building Empire of Hope." It featured photos of Nicole at the foundation, highlighted success stories from women they'd helped, and included quotes from corporate partners who'd hired foundation clients. Trevor's attorney sent Robert a message, "Client wishes to speak to Ms. Mitchell privately." Robert forwarded it to Nicole with a note, "Your call. I advise against it." Nicole stared at the message for a long time. Part of her was curious about what Trevor wanted to say, but the wiser part remembered that Trevor was manipulative, and any private conversation would be an attempt to control the narrative. "Tell him no," Nicole wrote back. "All communication goes through attorneys." 3 weeks after the FBI raid, federal prosecutors filed formal charges: wire fraud, embezzlement, securities fraud, and money laundering. 8 separate counts, each carrying significant prison time. Trevor posted bail, paid for by his parents who'd had to mortgage their house to raise the money. Nicole heard about it from Jordan and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, just a strange emptiness where Trevor used to exist in her thoughts. She'd loved him once, or thought she had. Now she couldn't remember what that feeling had been like. Her therapist, Dr. Patel, whom she'd started seeing after filing for divorce, helped her process it. "You're grieving," Dr. Patel explained. "Not for the man he turned out to be, but for the relationship you thought you had. That's normal and healthy." "I don't miss him," Nicole said. "Is that wrong?" "Not at all. You were in a relationship where you weren't valued or respected. You were building a life he knew nothing about because you couldn't share your real self with him. That's not love, that's survival." Nicole thought about that. She'd been surviving for years, not thriving. Now, finally, she had a chance to actually live. "What do you want?" Dr. Patel asked. "Not what you think you should want. What do you actually want for your life?" Nicole smiled. "I want to expand the foundation. Open locations in 3 more cities. Help 1,000 women. I want to wake up and feel excited about my day. I want to be with someone who sees me as a partner, not a possession or a servant." "Those are beautiful goals," Dr. Patel said. "And they're all about moving forward, not looking back." That night, Nicole sat in her apartment and made a list of dreams she'd put aside during her marriage. Travel to Italy. Learn to paint. Write a book about building nonprofits. Get a dog. She looked at the list and felt something she hadn't felt in years: hope. Trevor's trial date was set for 4 months away. Nicole's divorce would be finalized in 3 months, assuming Trevor didn't contest it, and his attorney had advised him not to. Everything was falling into place. 2 months after filing for divorce, Nicole stood in front of a floor-to-ceiling window in her new penthouse apartment, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of blue and purple. The foundation had purchased the building 6 weeks ago, a smart investment that included office space on the ground floor and residential units above. Nicole had taken the top-floor penthouse as her residence, finally allowing herself to live somewhere that reflected her success. "This view never gets old," her assistant director, Simone, said, walking up beside her. "I still can't believe you managed to buy this entire building." The foundation bought it, Nicole corrected. We're using it wisely. Offices for us, affordable housing for our clients on floors 2 and 3, and income-generating rentals on floors 4 through 6. It had been Beth, her forensic accountant, who'd suggested the investment. You've got the capital and this neighborhood is growing. Plus, housing is one of the biggest barriers for women leaving bad situations. You solve that problem while building equity. Nicole had loved the idea immediately. Now, 8 weeks later, the building was operational. The foundation occupied the entire ground floor with expanded counseling rooms, a computer lab for job training, and a children's play area. 2 floors of apartments housed women transitioning from shelters to independence. And the rental income covered operating costs. The mayor's office called again, Simone said, consulting her tablet. They want you to speak at next month's city council meeting about affordable housing solutions. Schedule it, Nicole said. I'll prepare remarks. Her phone buzzed, Jordan texting a link to a news article. Garrison Technology CFO trial date set. Former executive faces 8 federal counts. Nicole read the article quickly. Trevor's trial would begin in 6 weeks. Prosecutors had lined up witnesses, including forensic accountants, FBI investigators, and several of his former colleagues. Gabrielle was mentioned as a potential witness. The article included a statement from Trevor's attorney. My client maintains his innocence and looks forward to clearing his name. Nicole showed the article to Simone. This is going to get ugly. Are you prepared to testify if they call you? Robert says I probably won't need to. The financial evidence speaks for itself. But if they do call me, I'm ready. The truth was, Nicole had been preparing. She'd reviewed every document she'd photographed, every transaction Beth had traced. She knew the case better than Trevor himself probably did. Her divorce was progressing smoothly. Trevor had agreed to everything, selling the house, splitting the equity, dividing their minimal shared assets. He'd signed the papers without contest, probably because his criminal defense was consuming all his energy and money. The divorce would be final in 3 weeks. Nicole couldn't wait. Meanwhile, her foundation had received national attention. The magazine article had been picked up by a wire service, and suddenly nonprofit organizations across the country were calling to learn about Nicole's model. You've created something replicable, a consultant from New York told her during a video call. The combination of services, housing, and job training, it's brilliant. Have you considered franchising the model? Nicole had never thought of it that way. You mean helping other cities create similar foundations? Exactly. You could provide training, resources, and operational guidance. There's funding available for this kind of work. Federal grants, corporate sponsorships, philanthropic foundations. The idea excited Nicole more than she'd expected. Let me think about it. I'd need to make sure we maintain quality and stay true to the mission. Of course. But Nicole, you've built something special. More women need access to this kind of support. After the call, Nicole sat at her desk and sketched out possibilities. What would it take to expand nationally? She'd need regional directors, training programs, quality control systems. It would be challenging. It would also be incredible. That evening, Nicole attended a fundraiser for another local charity. She'd been invited by Lauren, a corporate sponsor who'd become a friend through their work together. Nicole? Lauren called, waving her over. I want you to meet someone. This is Daniel Foster. He's the architect who designed that beautiful community center on 5th Street. Nicole shook hands with a tall man with kind eyes and an easy smile. Nice to meet you. Lauren has been telling me about your foundation, Daniel said. The work you're doing sounds amazing. Thank you. Have you worked on nonprofit spaces before? Several. I actually prefer those projects to commercial work. There's something satisfying about designing spaces that serve communities. They talked for 20 minutes about adaptive reuse of buildings, creating welcoming environments for trauma survivors, and the importance of natural light in healing spaces. We're planning to expand to other cities, Nicole found herself saying. If that happens, we'll need architects who understand our mission. Daniel pulled out a business card. I'd love to be part of that. Here's my information. And actually, I volunteer with a literacy program on weekends. If your foundation ever needs extra hands, I'd be happy to help. Nicole took the card, surprised. You volunteer? Every Saturday morning. It's important to me to give back. He smiled. Plus, I learn more from the people I work with than they probably learn from me. Nicole found herself smiling back. There was something genuine about Daniel, something refreshing after years of Trevor's performative charity work that was really about networking and appearances. I'll definitely reach out, she said. We always need volunteers, especially people who show up consistently. Later, driving home, Nicole thought about the conversation. Daniel had asked about her work with real interest. He'd listened to her ideas without interrupting or dismissing them. He'd volunteered his time without expecting anything in return. It had been a long time since Nicole had talked to someone like that. Her phone rang. Robert, her attorney. Good news, he said. The judge signed off on your divorce decree. As of today, you're officially single. Nicole pulled over to the side of the road and sat in silence for a moment. 5 years of marriage, ended with a judge's signature. She felt lighter. Thank you, Robert. For everything. You did the hard part, Nicole. You documented everything, built your case, and had the courage to follow through. A lot of people would have backed down. After they hung up, Nicole sat in her car and let herself feel the full weight of the moment. Her marriage was over. Trevor's trial was approaching. Her foundation was growing. Her life was completely different than it had been 3 months ago. And she had never been happier. She drove home to her penthouse, ordered Chinese food, and opened a bottle of champagne. She toasted herself, her grandmother's memory, and the future she was building. Tomorrow she would continue the work. But tonight she would celebrate her freedom. The federal courthouse downtown was an imposing building with marble columns and security checkpoints that reminded Nicole of airports. She'd been here twice before. Once for pretrial hearings where she'd observed from the gallery, and once to review procedures with Robert in case she was called to testify. Now, on the first day of Trevor's trial, Nicole sat in the back row of the public gallery, watching as prosecutors presented their opening arguments. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the lead prosecutor, a sharp woman named Catherine Wells, began. Over the next 2 weeks, we will prove that the defendant, Trevor James Mitchell, systematically stole over $750,000 from his employer, Garrison Technologies. He didn't do this by accident. He didn't make an honest mistake. He created fake vendor accounts, falsified financial reports, and moved money through offshore banks to hide his crimes. Nicole watched Trevor at the defense table. He wore an expensive suit and tried to look confident, but she could see tension in his shoulders, the way his jaw clenched when the prosecutor mentioned specific amounts. Gabrielle was not in the courtroom. According to Jordan, who'd been following every detail, Gabrielle had made a deal with prosecutors, testimony in exchange for immunity from charges related to the expensive gifts Trevor had given her. She's testifying on day 3, Jordan had texted. This is going to be messy. Patricia sat in the front row behind Trevor, her face a mask of tight-lipped anger. She tried to make eye contact with Nicole when she first entered, but Nicole had looked away. The prosecution's case was methodical and damning. They presented bank records, email correspondence, and testimony from forensic accountants who traced every transaction. Beth Rodriguez, Nicole's forensic accountant, testified on day 2, explaining in clear terms how Trevor had set up fake vendor accounts and moved money. The pattern was consistent over 23 months, Beth told the jury. Each month, Mr. Mitchell would create invoices from shell companies he'd registered, approve those invoices himself using his CFO authority, and transfer company funds to accounts he controlled. Is there any legitimate business explanation for this activity? The prosecutor asked. No. These were dummy companies. They provided no goods or services. The money was immediately moved to offshore accounts in Mr. Mitchell's name. Trevor's attorney tried to create doubt during cross-examination. Ms. Rodriguez, isn't it possible these were legitimate business expenses that were simply documented poorly? Beth didn't hesitate. No. I've examined thousands of business transactions in my career. These have all the hallmarks of deliberate fraud, shell companies, offshore accounts, falsified documentation, and concealment efforts. On day 3, Gabrielle took the stand. She looked different than she had at Patricia's birthday party. The confident swagger was gone, replaced by nervous energy. Her pregnancy was more visible now at 7 months. Ms. Monroe, the prosecutor said gently, how did you meet the defendant? I worked at Garrison Technologies. He was my boss's boss, the chief financial officer. And did you develop a personal relationship with Mr. Mitchell? Gabrielle nodded, her voice quiet. Yes. We started seeing each other about 11 months ago. During this relationship, did Mr. Mitchell ever discuss his finances with you? He told me he had investment accounts that were doing really well. He said he'd made smart moves and had money set aside. Gabrielle looked at Trevor, then away. He bought me gifts, expensive jewelry, designer bags. He took me on trips. Did you know where this money came from? He said it was from his investments. Gabrielle's voice broke slightly. I didn't know he was stealing from the company. He said he was successful and wanted to spoil me. When did you learn the truth? When the FBI came to his office. When I found out he was being investigated for embezzlement. Gabrielle wiped her eyes. I had no idea. I would never have accepted those gifts if I'd known. Trevor's attorney was aggressive during cross-examination. Ms. Monroe, you were having an affair with a married man, correct? Yes. And you were happy to accept expensive gifts from him, no questions asked? I trusted him, Gabrielle said defensively. He told me his marriage was over, that he and his wife were separated. Nicole felt a sharp pain in her chest at that lie. They'd never been separated. Trevor had been living with her, sleeping beside her, right up until the birthday party. You knew he had a wife, though? Yes, but... And you attended his mother's birthday party where his wife was present, correct? Gabrielle looked uncomfortable. Yes. In fact, that's when Mr. Mitchell publicly announced he wanted a divorce so he could be with you. You were sitting at the family table, and his wife walked in not knowing about the affair or your pregnancy. Isn't that right? His mother invited me, Gabrielle said weakly. I didn't plan that. The attorney paused. Ms. Monroe, you're testifying here today under an immunity agreement, correct? You receive immunity from prosecution in exchange for your testimony? Yes. So you have a strong motivation to say whatever prosecutors want you to say, don't you? I'm telling the truth. Gabrielle's voice rose. Trevor told me about his accounts. He showed me bank statements. He bragged about how he was smarter than everyone at the company. I'm not making this up. The outburst seemed to catch everyone off guard, including Trevor, whose face went pale. The trial continued with more witnesses. Trevor's colleagues who testified about his unusual financial reporting, the company's CEO who described discovering the fraud, FBI agents who detailed the investigation. On day 5, the prosecution rested its case. Trevor's defense was weak. His attorney argued that the financial records were misinterpreted, that Trevor had made mistakes but hadn't intended to commit fraud, that he'd been stressed and overwhelmed. Trevor himself didn't testify. His attorney advised against it, probably because the evidence was too overwhelming. Nicole attended every day of the trial, sitting quietly in the back row. She wanted to witness this, to see the justice system work, to know that actions had consequences. On day 7, Jordan joined her in the gallery. How are you holding up? Jordan whispered during a break. I'm okay. It's surreal watching my ex-husband's life fall apart in real time. Do you feel bad for him? Nicole considered. Part of me does. He's still a human being. But he did this to himself. And he tried to destroy me in the process. The prosecution's closing arguments were powerful. Catherine Wells stood before the jury and methodically reviewed every piece of evidence, every transaction, every lie. Trevor Mitchell betrayed his company, his colleagues, and the shareholders who trusted him, she concluded. He stole, he lied, and he tried to hide his crimes. The evidence is overwhelming. We ask you to hold him accountable. The defense's closing argument tried to create sympathy. Trevor was under pressure, made poor choices, deserved a second chance. The jury deliberated for 2 days. Nicole was in her office when Robert called with the news. Guilty. On all 8 counts. Nicole sat down slowly. All of them? Every single one. Wire fraud, embezzlement, securities fraud, money laundering. The jury was unanimous. When is sentencing? 3 weeks. Federal sentencing guidelines suggest 8 to 15 years, depending on the judge's discretion. After she hung up, Nicole sat in silence. She'd expected this outcome. The evidence was too strong for any other result. But hearing it confirmed felt different. Trevor was going to prison. His career was over. His reputation was destroyed. And Nicole was free. That evening her phone rang. A known number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Nicole? It was Trevor's voice, broken and small. Please, I need to talk to you. How did you get this number? It doesn't matter. Please. 5 minutes. Nicole should have hung up. But she needed closure. Talk. I'm sorry. Trevor's voice cracked. I'm so sorry for everything. For the affair, for the birthday party, for not appreciating you. You were right about everything. Yes, I was. The jury convicted me. I'm going to prison. He sounded like he was crying. My life is over. Your life isn't over, Trevor. It's just different now. You'll serve your time and then you'll have a chance to rebuild. That's more than some people get. Will you write a letter to the judge for sentencing? Ask for leniency? Nicole laughed, a sound without humor. No, Trevor. I won't. Please. For what we had. We were married for 5 years. That has to mean something. It does mean something. It means I wasted 5 years with someone who never saw me as an equal partner. You dismissed my work, ignored my dreams, and cheated on me. And when you decided to leave, you chose to humiliate me publicly instead of having the decency to do it privately. I was stupid. I was arrogant. I made terrible choices. Yes, you did. And now you face the consequences. I didn't create those consequences, Trevor. You did. Silence on the line. I hope you find peace, Nicole said finally. I really do. But it won't be with me, and it won't be by avoiding responsibility for what you've done. Goodbye, Trevor. She hung up and blocked the number. Then she poured herself tea, curled up on her couch, and opened her laptop. She had work to do. A proposal for the national expansion of her foundation, plans that would help women across the country. Trevor's chapter of her life was closed. The next one was just beginning. 3 weeks after the guilty verdict, Nicole sat in the same federal courthouse for Trevor's sentencing hearing. She debated whether to attend, but Robert had advised her to be there. Victim impact is part of the process, he'd explained. Even though you weren't a direct victim of the embezzlement, you were harmed by his actions. The judge may want to hear from you. The courtroom was less crowded than during the trial. Patricia sat in her usual spot, looking older and more frail than Nicole had ever seen her. Trevor's father was beside her, staring straight ahead with empty eyes. Gabrielle was not present. According to news reports, she'd given birth to a daughter 2 weeks ago and was reportedly living with her parents in another state. Trevor sat at the defense table in prison clothes. He'd been held without bail since the verdict, considered a flight risk because of his offshore accounts and connections. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s named Judge Patricia Chin, reviewed the case files. Mr. Mitchell, she began, you were convicted on 8 counts of fraud, embezzlement, and money laundering. The prosecution has recommended a sentence of 15 years. Your defense has asked for leniency, citing your previously clean record and family circumstances. Before I issue my sentence, I'm allowing victim impact statements. The court recognizes Nicole Mitchell, the defendant's former wife. Nicole stood, her heart pounding. She'd written and rewritten her statement a dozen times. Your Honor, I'm Nicole Mitchell. I was married to the defendant for 5 years. She paused, gathering her thoughts. I'm not here to ask for a harsher sentence or to express hatred. I'm here to provide context that might help the court understand who Trevor Mitchell is and why he made the choices he made. She looked directly at Trevor, who couldn't meet her eyes. My ex-husband is a man who believed rules didn't apply to him. He believed he was smarter than everyone else and deserved what he took. This mindset didn't just apply to his crimes at Garrison Technologies. It applied to every part of his life, including our marriage. Nicole's voice remained steady. While he was stealing from his company, he was also betraying our marriage. He was cruel and dismissive of my work and dreams. When he decided to end our marriage, he chose to humiliate me publicly at a family event rather than show basic human decency. The man sitting at that table doesn't just lack respect for corporate assets or financial regulations. He lacks respect for people. For their dignity, their contributions, their humanity. She paused. I don't hate Trevor. But I do believe he needs to face real consequences for his actions. Not because I want revenge, but because consequences are how people learn. For 15 years, Trevor has lived without real accountability. Maybe prison will teach him what nothing else has, that other people matter, that rules exist for reasons, and that no one is above facing the results of their choices. Nicole sat down. The courtroom was silent. Judge Chin made notes, then looked at Trevor. Mr. Mitchell, do you wish to make a statement before sentencing? Trevor stood shakily. Your Honor, I've made terrible mistakes. I hurt people I should have protected. I betrayed trust. I was arrogant and believed I wouldn't be caught. I'm sorry. I'm deeply, truly sorry. He glanced at Nicole. Especially to my ex-wife, who deserved so much better than what I gave her. I didn't see her value when I had the chance. Now I understand what I lost. Judge Chin listened impassively. When Trevor sat down, she opened her sentencing documents. Mr. Mitchell, I've reviewed your case extensively. The amount stolen, $750,000, is substantial. The duration of your crimes, nearly 2 years, shows this was not a momentary lapse in judgment but a sustained pattern of criminal behavior. She looked directly at Trevor. You held a position of trust as chief financial officer. Employees, shareholders, and board members relied on you to act with integrity. You violated that trust systematically and repeatedly. Furthermore, your personal conduct, as detailed in your ex-wife's statement, suggests a pattern of believing yourself above consequences. That concerns me greatly. Nicole held her breath. The federal sentencing guidelines recommend 8 to 15 years. The prosecution requests 15 years. Your defense requests 5 years. Judge Chen paused. I sentence you to 12 years in federal prison followed by 3 years of supervised release. You are ordered to pay full restitution of $750,000 plus interest to Garrison Technologies. You will forfeit all assets connected to the crimes, including offshore accounts. Trevor's head dropped into his hands. His mother let out a small cry. Additionally, the judge continued, you are permanently barred from serving as an officer or director of any publicly traded company. This court hopes that 12 years provides you with sufficient time to reflect on your choices and develop the character you've lacked thus far. The gavel struck. Court is adjourned. Nicole stood as marshals led Trevor away. He looked back once, his eyes finding hers. She saw fear there and regret and something that might have been a plea for forgiveness. She looked away. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Nicole made a brief statement through Robert. Justice has been served. My ex-husband committed serious crimes and will now face appropriate consequences. I'm focusing on the future and the important work of my foundation. Thank you. She walked to her car, ignoring follow-up questions. Jordan was waiting in the passenger seat. 12 years. That's a long time. It's a fair sentence, Nicole said. Not revenge. Just consequences. They drove in silence for a few minutes before Jordan spoke again. His mother tried to talk to you on the courthouse steps. I saw. I kept walking. She looked broken. Nicole thought about Patricia, who'd orchestrated her public humiliation, who'd enabled Trevor's worst behaviors, who'd taught him that charm and privilege could excuse anything. She's reaping what she sowed, Nicole said. Her son is going to prison partly because she never taught him accountability. That's harsh. That's honest. Nicole glanced at her friend. I spent 5 years being kind to people who didn't deserve it, making excuses for bad behavior, accepting less than I deserved. I'm done with that. Jordan smiled. Good. You deserve so much better. That evening, Nicole's phone exploded with messages. The sentencing had made national news. Tech executive sentenced to 12 years for embezzling $750,000. But Nicole also received messages of support. Women from her foundation, colleagues, friends she hadn't talked to in years. All saying they were proud of her, inspired by her strength. The foundation's donation page crashed from traffic. By the time the tech team fixed it, over $50,000 in new donations had been pledged. You're becoming a symbol, Simone told her the next day. Women see your story, how you built something while your husband was betraying you, how you documented his crimes, how you stood up in court. It's powerful. Nicole hadn't thought of herself that way. She'd just been surviving, then escaping, then rebuilding. But maybe that was exactly what other women needed to see, that surviving and rebuilding were possible. A week after the sentencing, Nicole received a letter. Prison mail from Trevor. She almost threw it away unopened. But curiosity won again. The letter was short. Nicole, I know you don't owe me anything. I know I destroyed what we had. But I want you to know that you were right about everything. I was arrogant. I was cruel. I took you for granted. Prison is exactly where I deserve to be. I hope you build an amazing life. You always deserved better than me. Trevor. Nicole read it twice, then filed it away. Not in the trash, but in a folder with other documents from that chapter of her life. Someday she might want to remember how far she'd come. But not today. Today she had a foundation to run, women to help, and a future to build. She opened her laptop and got to work. Spring arrived with cherry blossoms and longer days. Nicole stood on the foundation's rooftop garden, a space Daniel Foster had designed during his volunteer hours, watching the city wake up. Coffee? Daniel appeared beside her, holding 2 steaming mugs. You're here early, Nicole said, accepting the mug gratefully. I wanted to finish the planters before Saturday's event. He gestured to the wooden boxes he'd built along the edges. The women from the apartment program are going to plant vegetables and flowers. I thought it would be nice if everything was ready. Nicole smiled. Over the past 4 months, Daniel had become a regular presence at the foundation. He'd started by volunteering Saturday mornings, teaching basic home repair skills to women moving into their own apartments. Then he'd offered to design the rooftop garden as a therapeutic space. Now he seemed to be there almost as often as Nicole herself. You've done beautiful work, Nicole said. This space is going to mean so much to everyone. It's my pleasure. Daniel looked at her with that direct, honest gaze she'd come to appreciate. Your foundation does important work. I'm glad I can contribute. They stood in comfortable silence, sipping coffee and watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of pink and blue. Can I ask you something? Daniel said eventually. Of course. Would you have dinner with me sometime? Not foundation business, not volunteering. Just dinner. As two people who enjoy each other's company. Nicole's heart skipped. She'd known this was coming, had felt the shift between them from professional respect to genuine friendship to something more. But she'd been hesitant to act on it. I'd like that, she said. But I should be honest. My divorce was only finalized 5 months ago. My ex-husband is in prison. I'm not sure I'm ready for anything complicated. Daniel nodded thoughtfully. I'm not looking for complicated. I'm looking for honest. I like you, Nicole. I admire your strength, your intelligence, your compassion. I'd like to get to know you better outside of foundation work. No pressure, no expectations beyond seeing where things go naturally. His honesty was disarming. Trevor had never talked like this, with clarity and respect for her needs. Okay, Nicole said. Dinner sounds nice. They set a date for the following weekend, a small Italian restaurant Daniel knew, casual and quiet. Nicole found herself looking forward to it more than she expected. The foundation's national expansion was progressing. Nicole had hired a consultant to help develop replication models. 3 cities had expressed serious interest in starting their own chapters: Atlanta, Chicago, and Seattle. You'll need to travel more, Simone warned. Site visits, training, oversight. I know. I'm ready for that. Are you though? You've built something here that runs smoothly because you're present. Can you let go enough to trust others to carry the vision? It was a fair question. Nicole had always been hands-on, present for every decision. Delegation didn't come naturally. I'll learn, Nicole said. This is bigger than me now. If we can help women in other cities, I need to make that happen even if it means stepping back from daily operations here. She promoted Simone to executive director of the local foundation, with full authority to make operational decisions. It was terrifying and liberating at the same time. Nicole's life had settled into a new rhythm. She woke early, ran through her neighborhood, worked at the foundation until evening. She had dinner with friends, attended community events, spent quiet nights reading in her penthouse. It was a simple life, but it was hers. Trevor sent occasional letters from prison. Nicole read them but didn't respond. His messages were consistently apologetic, reflective, and slowly more mature. Prison seemed to be forcing growth that freedom never had. I understand now why you couldn't forgive me, one letter said. I wouldn't forgive me either. I hope you're happy. You deserve happiness. Nicole filed these letters away with the others. She didn't hate Trevor anymore. She simply didn't think about him much. Patricia tried to contact her twice more. Once through the foundation's main number, once through a mutual acquaintance. Both times, Nicole politely declined communication. Some bridges need to stay burned, she told Jordan. Patricia enabled Trevor's worst behaviors. I don't need that energy in my life. Gabrielle, according to internet searches Nicole occasionally conducted, had moved to North Carolina with her daughter. She'd returned to school to finish her degree and was apparently working part-time while her parents helped with childcare. Nicole felt nothing about Gabrielle, no anger, no satisfaction, just indifference. The woman had been part of a painful chapter, but that chapter was closed. The dinner date with Daniel arrived. Nicole spent longer than usual choosing an outfit, not to impress but because she wanted to feel confident. Daniel picked her up at 7, holding flowers, daisies, bright and cheerful. I asked Jordan what your favorite flowers were, he admitted. I hope that's not weird. Nicole laughed. It's thoughtful. Thank you. The restaurant was perfect. Intimate without being pretentious, with Italian music playing softly and the smell of garlic and tomatoes filling the air. They talked for 3 hours. About architecture and nonprofit work, about childhoods and dreams, about travel and books and the small moments that make life beautiful. I was engaged once, Daniel shared. 5 years ago. She ended it 3 months before the wedding. Said I was too idealistic, that I cared more about community projects than building wealth. That must have been hard. It was. But looking back, she was right about the idealism. I do care more about meaning than money. I just don't see that as a flaw anymore. Nicole smiled. It's not a flaw. It's a gift. The world needs more people who care about meaning. What about you? Daniel asked. What do you want now that you're building your own life? Nicole thought carefully. I want to help more women. I want to see the foundation grow into something national, maybe international. I want to travel, Italy, France, Thailand. I want to learn to paint. Get a dog. She paused. And I want to be with someone who sees me as an equal partner. Someone who respects my work and celebrates my success. Those are beautiful goals, Daniel said. And achievable. Especially the dog part, that seems pretty straightforward. They laughed together, and Nicole felt something she hadn't felt in years. Genuine connection with someone who saw all of her and appreciated it. Daniel walked her to her door at the end of the evening. I had a wonderful time, he said. Can we do this again? Yes, Nicole said without hesitation. I'd like that. He kissed her cheek gently, respecting boundaries while showing affection. Good night, Nicole. Good night, Daniel. Inside her apartment, Nicole stood by the window and smiled. She wasn't rushing into anything. Daniel understood that and respected it. They would take their time, build something genuine. For the first time in years, Nicole felt excited about her personal future, not just her professional one. She texted Jordan, the date was perfect. He brought me daisies. Jordan replied immediately, I told him the right flowers. This is amazing. Details tomorrow. Nicole laughed and got ready for bed. Tomorrow she had meetings about the Chicago Foundation location. Next week she was flying to Atlanta for site visits. Next month, the Foundation's annual gala. Her life was full, purposeful, and entirely her own. 1 year after Patricia's birthday party, Nicole stood at the podium of the Grand Ballroom in the new convention center, looking out at over 300 guests attending the Dolores Williams Foundation's annual gala. Thank you all for being here tonight, she began, her voice steady and confident. 1 year ago, I stood in a very different ballroom experiencing what I thought was the worst moment of my life. I was publicly humiliated, betrayed, and told to pack my bags. The audience was silent, attentive. That moment was a gift, though I didn't know it at the time. It was the moment I stopped living for someone else's approval and started building the life I deserved. She clicked to the next slide. Photos of women the foundation had helped, smiling faces representing triumph over adversity. This year, the Dolores Williams Foundation helped over 400 women rebuild their lives. We provided housing, job training, legal aid, and counseling. We saw 92 women move from our transitional housing into their own apartments. 73 women started new careers in fields they'd never thought they could access. Applause filled the room. But we're not stopping there. I'm thrilled to announce that we're expanding nationally. Foundations based on our model will open in Atlanta, Chicago, and Seattle within the next 6 months. We're creating a network of support that will help thousands of women across the country. The applause grew louder. Nicole saw Simone in the front row, beaming with pride. Jordan was recording on her phone. Daniel sat at a table near the stage, his smile warm and encouraging. None of this would be possible without our donors, volunteers, and partners. Nicole listed the corporate sponsors, the individual contributors, the volunteers who'd given countless hours. And I want to acknowledge my grandmother, Dolores Williams, whose inheritance made this foundation possible. She taught me that true strength comes from building others up, from using whatever resources you have to create opportunity and hope. Nicole paused, emotion catching in her throat. Grandma, wherever you are, thank you for believing I could do this. The gala continued with dinner, dancing, and silent auctions. Nicole moved through the crowd, thanking donors, hugging women whose lives had been transformed by the foundation's work, and accepting congratulations on the national expansion. You're glowing, Jordan said, catching her during a quiet moment. This is your night. It's the foundation's night, Nicole corrected. This is bigger than me. You built this. You should be proud. I am. Nicole smiled. For the first time in my life, I'm genuinely proud of what I've created. Daniel found her as the evening wound down. Dance with me? They moved onto the floor as a slow song played. Daniel held her gently, respectfully, his hand warm on her back. You were amazing tonight, he said. Watching you up there, sharing your vision, I'm in awe. Thank you for being here. For supporting this. I wouldn't miss it. Daniel looked at her seriously. Nicole, I know we've been taking things slow and I respect that completely. But I want you to know, I'm all in. Whenever you're ready for more, I'm here. Nicole felt tears prick her eyes. I think I'm ready. Or at least I'm ready to try. That's all I need to hear. They danced in comfortable silence, surrounded by people celebrating hope and transformation. The next morning, Nicole woke to dozens of news articles about the gala. Local foundation expands nationally, read one headline. From betrayal to triumph, nonprofit director builds empire of hope, read another. Her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. She almost deleted it, but something made her open it. I saw the news about your gala. You're doing incredible things. I'm proud of you even though I have no right to be. I hope you're happy. You deserve everything good. Trevor. Nicole stared at the message for a long moment. Trevor was 3 months into his 12-year sentence. His life was confined to prison routines, appeals that would likely fail, and the slow work of rehabilitation. She could respond with anger, or with forgiveness, or with indifference. Instead, she simply deleted the message and blocked the number. Trevor was her past. The foundation, her work, Daniel, her future. These were her present and future. Some bridges didn't need closure. They just needed to be left behind. That afternoon, Nicole adopted a dog from the local shelter. A golden retriever mix named Sunny who'd been rescued from a bad situation and needed a patient, loving home. She's been through a lot, the shelter volunteer explained. But she's resilient. She just needs someone who won't give up on her. I understand, Nicole said, kneeling to pet the dog. We'll figure it out together. Sunny came home to the penthouse, where she explored every room with cautious curiosity. By evening, she was curled up on the couch beside Nicole, her head resting on Nicole's lap. You're safe now, Nicole whispered, stroking the dog's soft fur. No one will hurt you again. I promise. Daniel came over for dinner, bringing toys for Sunny and ingredients to cook together. They made pasta from scratch, laughing as flour dusted the kitchen counter. This is nice, Daniel said, watching Nicole play with the dog. This feels like home. Nicole looked around, at the apartment she'd chosen, the dog she'd rescued, the man who saw her strength as attractive rather than threatening. It is home, she agreed. Finally. That night, after Daniel left, Nicole sat on her balcony with Sunny at her feet and a glass of wine in her hand. She thought about the journey of the past year, from public humiliation to divorce, from fear to freedom, from surviving to thriving. She thought about Trevor in prison, learning lessons that should have come decades earlier. She thought about Patricia, alone with her bitterness and the consequences of enabling bad behavior. She thought about Gabrielle, raising a baby alone and hopefully learning about integrity and respect. But mostly Nicole thought about herself. About the woman who'd documented crimes when she could have looked away. Who'd built a foundation in secret because she knew her husband would try to control it. Who'd stood in a courtroom and told the truth even when it was hard. Who'd walked away from manipulation attempts and refused to be drawn back into dysfunction. That woman was strong. That woman was capable. That woman deserved respect, love, and success. And finally, gloriously, that woman had all three. Nicole raised her glass to the night sky, to her grandmother's memory, to the women who would benefit from the foundation's expansion, and to herself. To new beginnings, she said softly, and to never settling for less than I deserve. Sunny woofed in agreement and Nicole laughed. 1 year ago, her husband had said, "Pack your bags," at his mother's birthday party, intending to humiliate and diminish her. Instead, he'd set her free. And Nicole had taken that freedom and built something beautiful.